Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you've got Darren Little here with the MLM Superheroes, and we are live right now on an international broadcast, broadcasting to all four corners of the world. And I have a special treat here today, guys. I have with me on the hangout here, Desmond Soon, who I was able to connect with first of all on Facebook, and then after that, live and in person in Nashville. And what I want for you to really understand from this hangout is really sort of the cross-pollination between online marketing and offline relationships. And it's important for you to realize that you really need to have a mix of both, okay? So online is great to get that international exposure. It's great to be able to clone yourself to get the most amount of views or the most amount of connections. But ultimately, guys, you want to be able to meet people in person, okay? Very, very critical that you get this, because this is why the live events are so critically important to take your business to the next level. So Desmond, welcome to the Hangout.
Thanks so much, Darren. It's an honor and a privilege to be on this call with you.
Fantastic. You know, Desmond, maybe you can, just for our viewers here, just give them sort of a quick a snapshot of yourself, your background, where you came from. I know you're a serial entrepreneur like myself. Just maybe chat a little bit about some of the diversity that you've been through in the different types of industries and categories, and what sort of brought you full circle into online marketing and to really branding yourself as a leader internationally.
All right, so I guess for the viewers watching this right now, my disclaimer is Darren actually caught me off guard. We talked about having a hangout and stuff like that, but I had no idea that we're going to be broadcasting. So you guys are actually seeing me for once actually in casuals, because most of the time people that see me, they always see me in a suit or in a jacket or some sort of, I look fairly formal, and everyone always seems to think that's my brand image. But to be really honest, I'm a fatherpreneur. I stay at home and I get to wear casual clothing. It does not mean that I look like a slob, or I wear my pajamas. You have no idea what's below here, though, right? So you have no idea what. But okay, so I guess to give you guys a quick synopsis of who I am or where I came from, I was born in Singapore. Spent 12 years growing up there. My father was a chief engineer for Singapore Airlines. That led him to be traveling all the time, never at home. And I didn't grow up in a bad family. I didn't grow up in a family where my dad was abusive. He was a very, very stoic, typical Asian father, very hardworking, and he was a workaholic at that time. And, now these days he's a little bit more toned down, and he's semi-retired, but he was a chief engineer for Singapore Airlines. That meant that he had to fly and travel to Boeing, Everett, Washington. And we also had to go to Toulouse, France, where the Airbus planes were being assembled. Excuse me for a second. Let me just put this on. Okay, and what happened was my dad fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. He loved the outdoors, and he wanted to immigrate over here, but we could not get into the States, so we ended up moving into Canada, because Canada was opening its doors to immigrants at that time. And there were a lot of immigrants that were coming in from Hong Kong and India and places like that. And there were two criteria to get into the country. One was either you had to have money, or two, you had to have a skill set, a professional skill set. And my dad, with all his licenses as an engineer, an avionics engineer, was easily accepted. And so we moved into Vancouver, where my mom had a brother over here as well, who was, believe it or not, he was actually, I think, the airport manager for Singapore Airlines. So we came over to Vancouver, fell in love with the area, moved here, naturalized. I spent 12 years living here. During that time, I got myself into all kinds of trouble as even as a very young entrepreneur. We all know that there's a couple of substances out there that are green in color, that's herbal, and you roll it up, and it's actually less harmful than, say, alcohol or any other substance out there. But, in a very young age in school, one of my first experiences of being an entrepreneur was actually, I used to see my friends purchasing, for their own recreational uses. And I thought to myself, why are you guys all buying individually? Let me just gather up all your money and I'll buy wholesale and I'll sell to you guys retail. I basically try to model myself after Costco. And so what I did was, at a very young age, and I'm not condoning this, I'm not promoting it to anyone that's watching this, but I had a can-do attitude. I always try to find a better way, a more efficient way of doing things. And I think it led me to it also got me in trouble. I did some things that I'm not proud of, and I did get messed up with the law. Fortunately for me, I was young enough that it got expunged, and I learned very, very quickly what the difference between doing things legally and illegally. And so I turned over my leaf and I became a serial entrepreneur. I didn't even really know the term at that time. It was coined later on in my 30s, but I started doing different things. And I worked in the hotel industry. I was in the Air Cadets. I became a pilot at a very young age. By 16, in fact, I was flying better than I could drive a car by the age of 16. I was flying gliders. I was doing aerobatic stuff and whatnot. And then fast forward a bit more, I graduated from high school. And rather than actually go into full-time university, I started to do my private pilot's license and my college degree out at the University College of the Fraser Valley out in Abbotsford, next to the Abbotsford Airport, where we did our pilot training as well as also we did some academia in university. But the funny story is I never graduated. I never actually graduated. I ran out of money somewhere during my course. I'd got my multi-engine, my IFR, stuff like that, but I never graduated with a full degree. It was like a diploma of sorts. And then I got down to working in downtown, and I worked in the hotels. I worked around all the richest people. I even joined Amway, right? And that's actually how it led to a mentor that Darren and myself know. Who's gone on to make over $150 million and stuff like that on the internet. I did not know him at that time though, but what I did know from these guys in Amway was that, I learned about personal development, books, how to win friends and influence people, Think and Grow Rich, Magic of Thinking Big, As a Man Thinketh. These books actually left a massive imprint on me. And so, I had a fiance at the time. I saw the people in Amway. There were these most of them were like these successful couples, married couples. And I had this dream of getting married. I always wanted to get married. I always want to have kids. I always wanted to be a good father to my kids. Not that my dad gave me a bad impression, but I always had this dream of having my own kids. But my fiance broke up with me, and it left me spiraling for a while there. And while I was working downtown, I was kind of interested in the Asian culture because, as you can see, I was born Asian, came over here, and I'm the proverbial banana, as people call it, because, I did. I identified myself as a Canadian. I naturalized. There are many immigrants, and this is a completely separate controversial topic, but there are many immigrants who come to a country and they never naturalize in the country. They still, they congregate together and they never really fully respect that country's original culture. And my dad always used to tell us when we traveled, when you go to someone's house, you don't go put your feet up on someone's tea table, when in Rome, do as the Romans. So when we came to Canada, I behaved as a Canadian. I saw myself as a Canadian. I served in the military. And, there was a lot of tension between a lot of the new immigrants, kind of pushing out a lot of the locals that were here. And I just remember that and stuff like that. And so I was the proverbial Caucasian banana kind of thing. And then when I was in my, late teens, early 20s, a lot of people were China had repatriated out to Hong Kong, and a lot of the Cantonese were going back, and a lot of the Asians, they were saying, hey, Desmond, why don't you go back and look at your roots again, like Asian roots? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. I don't know that much about Asia. But I was racing cars and stuff like that. And I liked Japan. I like ninjas. I like the Shogun. I liked all that stuff. And I met this girl. And it always starts with a story with a girl in downtown. And she was here studying English, and she went back to Tokyo. And that got me interested to go out to Tokyo. So I took a trip out there, taking advantage of my dad's free flights or buddy flight passes and stuff like that. Went out to Tokyo and fell in love with the city. Huge, big city. I saw it as the Big Apple of Asia, the New York of Asia. And I made plans to start, to get out there, to work there. So I'll try to fast forward a bit. I went out to Asia, start off as the English teacher just to get the visa, quickly got into corporate sales, selling these corporate training programs to these companies, which gave me access to a lot of the Fortune 500 companies. And then that's when it really opened my eyes to, wow, this is actually, there's a lot of really educated people here. There's a lot of really high level business here, but there's also a lot of corporate BS and bureaucracy as well. Through doing that, I decided the entrepreneurial bug kicked back in again. I put Amway aside. I'd made some money there, but I put it aside, left my uplines to run that business. Took the books with me, though. Took the personal development stuff with me. Partied a lot in Tokyo. There's a lot of party scenes and rave and, dance clubs and stuff. Did all that. Then what happened was I met these crazy Australians that were into pearls and diamonds and stuff like that. And they wanted to make some sexual jewelry. We're talking gold-plated vibrators, platinum-plated butt plugs and stuff like that. And I'm sorry for the viewers that are watching this if that puts you off, but it was a great idea. We thought it was a fantastic idea because there were so many eccentric people out there, and it made sense that if a very high net worth individual, a multi-millionaire, wanted to give his wife or his mistress or whatever something nice, but make it a little bit risque or kinky, why not give her, a custom-made gold-plated vibrator or something like that with, diamond studded or whatever. And so that was the whole concept. I raised $500,000 from investors. And we got that business started. We lived the lavish, top of the life, Ginza. We went all the parties. We were in the eyes wide shut type parties in Tokyo amongst the celebrities, drugs, sex, all that kind of stuff was involved. And it was fantastic. It was a fun experience, but we also went bankrupt. And that's one of the first times I learned the very hard way about cash flow. At that time, I'd also started reading books. I started becoming a proponent of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he talked a lot about cash flow. I actually sought out Robert Kiyosaki and was actually personally mentored by him for a very short period of time. But that left also a lasting impression with me. Fast forward, it was very humbling to be bankrupt, to have lost all those investors' money, having my business partners run out on me. One stuck it out of 5. One stuck it out, and he went on to be successful as well. But the two of us learned a very valuable lesson of cash flow and also how to set things up with business partners. We struggled for many, many years. I met my wife, my current wife. She's not even Japanese, she's Korean. Her parents are fairly new money, big business in the kimchi manufacturing business. And so I was under a lot of pressure to do well in business. So I was working these jobs, I was doing all kinds of different things, and they were in the food and restaurant businesses. I decided to recover from my losses and start up more businesses. Yet again, my wife and myself tried to work under my in-laws, but that just did not work. We went off to set up our own restaurants, another $500,000 again. And that turned out to be, that actually failed as well. My wife got into that very impetuously, and we had construction that completely destroyed the restaurant. The restaurant was built very poorly and had to be shut down and ripped apart. So we lost all that money as well, again, in that process. Now, while that was all happening, I actually went back to work for Goldman Sachs. I'd already been working there as a contract employee, but then they took me on in full-time inside that company. So that was my claim to fame in the big corporate world. I was already in my 30s by that point. My first son was just about to be born. And I was at a turning point in my life. I was really, really beat up about losing a lot of money as an entrepreneur and just struggling all the time. It's, artists, they have this term about the starving artist, but it's not just a starving artist. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that have been doing things over and over and again. You're good people. You're trying really hard. You're trying all kinds of deals, whether it be MLMs or brick and mortar deals or affiliate programs or anything like that. You're trying something, but you're just not, something's not happening. You're not making that big money. You haven't hit that big momentum, that tipping point. So I felt that way, and I really was about to throw in the towel and just say, look, I'm in my 30s right now. It's either make or break right now. I either go back to the corporate world and just get a corporate job, and of course, what I'm going to do it all the way, all the way to the top. And so I went after Goldman Sachs, and it was a 6-figure income. It was $120,000 a year entry-level position, and I was really glad to get that. Would have been a nice, good, boost of income into the family while my wife was still working. So we did that, and then of course Goldman Sachs laid me off because they decided to move the position down to Hong Kong, and they asked me if I wanted to move there, but I said no because my wife is running a restaurant. We just had our baby born, so I stayed in Tokyo and decided to work from home. I tried to do things from like trading, forex and commodities and stuff like that. I had a mentor who taught me a bit about that. He's still one of my business partners that runs my office in Tokyo. I also went and set up an incubation office in Tokyo. And then while doing all of this, my wife and myself were fighting like crazy with this restaurant because there was a third partner and there was a guy, of course. So this triangle of us, and she seemed to tie up with him a lot more than me. And as that business was losing a lot of money, it put a lot of financial stress on us. And she was working like a workaholic. So for all of you watching this, if you've ever had a wife or a spouse who's, completely a slave to the brick and mortar business, 7 days a week, 18-hour days, full-time nanny, raising your kid from, and our second son was born when this restaurant was opened. He was born 2 weeks early, and the due date that he was actually supposed to be born was the day that the restaurant opened. So like literally as the restaurant opened, he was about 1 week old, and we're bringing him to the champagne opening party. Can you imagine that? How crazy we were as parents to bring our 1 week old baby in December in the middle of winter out into the cold to a champagne party at our restaurant because we're there smoozing with everyone, and we had to do that. And my wife just started working. She was never at home. She was a ghost. So I had to raise the kids. I needed options. And I found a babysitter, a nanny who basically became the surrogate mom for my kids. And it just wasn't working. I mean, she was good and everything, but it was killing us inside. My wife and me were on the verge of divorce. We had so much financial pressure, now close to $1 million worth of debt. And I go off with other partners to set up another business, which was a talent booking agency. And that was where we booked, famous talents like Little John, Pitbull, Quincy Jones, stuff like that to come over to Tokyo. So you guys can see there's a variety of things I've done, hence why the term serial entrepreneur, right? I'm bouncing all over the place. In fact, in the interviews at Goldman Sachs, they even looked at it, they even laughed at me, and they said, it seems like you've just done so many different things, Desmond. You're like a jack of all trades. And the position I actually got at Goldman Sachs was actually a diversity manager. That's how I actually got the job. Was I sold them on the fact that I was, I'm very diverse, and that most of the time the people that they hire for that position are very stoic, typical stereotype HR people. And I said, look, you guys are trying to get a person who's a diversity manager. I come from a sales background. How many salespeople do you have in your HR department who can sell these programs to these managing directors? And that's how I got the position, right? So very diverse, jack of all trades, master of none, but I actually didn't really like that term. I didn't like that term because I knew that I was not a specialist of anything. And a lot of the mentors by that time, the books I was reading and the people I was getting around, they kept telling me that you need to be a master of something. If you really want to excel, you got to be a master of something. Well, around that time, I was also part of this entrepreneurs club, a quasi secret society. You could call it a fraternity of sorts. And it was a global group. And during that time, while I was there, I met some very, very intelligent, very successful business people. I also met a lot of flakes and a lot of, pretentious people as well. But I was able to weed out through those people. And I met an existing mentor of mine right now named Matthew Locicero. He had cured himself of MS, multiple sclerosis. His brother died. He was very successful in the insurance business. He was also the chairman of the member advisory board in that club. And I saw him as the real deal. And I was very big into the whole natural cures, simply because around that time when the Goldman Sachs, my wife, the restaurants, I actually got sick, really, really badly sick. I was working and I fell really ill, had to be admitted to the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, the doctors actually diagnosed me. They were like, they'd done a whole bunch of tests and stuff. And they said, hey, we discovered something. Were you aware of this? And I said, no. And they were like, well, if you're not really careful, you could potentially, your lifespan, you could potentially be in some serious trouble in the next, say, 10 to 15 years, right? And I said, really? And I had no idea about this. And they wanted me to get on meds and different things like that. And
what was it that happened?
Well, to be really honest, Darren, if you forgive me, I don't want to disclose that. I don't want to go into that because I don't want to put any energy into it. I'm actually working on it. I'm actually going down the very holistic, naturopathic path of, maintaining my health. But it was a big shock. Okay. It's like someone coming up to you and just telling you like you've got terminal cancer, and it's like, or there's something in your DNA and, you're probably going to get a heart attack or something like that. It's down those routes. And it just made me feel very mortal. It made me feel very, very, it was a very devastating time in our lives, right? Because we had all this business, all these things going on. And then I just had 2 kids. And I'm like, I want to see my kids grow up. I want to see my kids get married at the very least. And so that became my priority. So I want to make sure that the viewers watching this, I went through this big, long, convoluted story, but I wanted them to understand my motivations behind what I do. And we were racking up debts. Like I said, that's why we were working like fanatic, workaholics. And then what happened was I was making some success with this talent booking agency. We were making some big money, but we were also dealing with some shady characters. We were dealing with the Yakuza, the mafia of Japan, and so forth. And we had to, these guys are professional business people. They're the guys that will get you access to booking the venues. If you needed to get the venues, the big stadiums, you want to bring Lady Gaga? Well, it doesn't matter if you're dealing with Live Nation or whatever. If you don't take care of them, you're not going to be able to get the booking. You go to the stadium and you ask them to book it, they'll tell you it's all full. But the moment you go take care of that side, all of a sudden the schedule opens up. So we were dealing with them, and I had a business partner who was in my office who had just come from JP Morgan, and he was doing a bunch of investments. And I said to him, hey, I got this, I made some pretty tidy big chunks of cash. What can you do with this cash? Can I invest it with you? Can you take care of it for me? And I need that money because my wife right now is going through some massive financial trouble. She's about to shut down the restaurant. So our cash flow on that side is going to go down. Can you provide some cash flow that's going to offset that? So he said, yes. Well, lo and behold, it turns out he actually embezzled me, or it was a Ponzi scheme. He actually, squandered that money. He was, showing up in brand new BMWs, nice, Tag Heuer watches. And I was wondering what was going on. I said, where are my returns on this money? And I didn't just invest in him. I brought in other investors as well. So this is now like the 3rd time I've lost investors' money. So those watching this, you're probably going to go, I'm not going to invest any money with Desmond. No, I actually learned the hard way. So I brought in my 3 biggest financiers, my biggest angels that would support me. Say, for example, if I was in Tokyo and we couldn't pay our rent or our salaries and I needed $35,000 just like that, I had these financiers, I had these angels I could just call upon that trusted me, that would lend me money for like a 30-day period, and I just return it to them once we made a sale. So I played with big money like that. You'll see pictures of me sometimes with these big fans of money and stuff. It was not unusual for me to be carrying around $40,000, $50,000 worth of cash in my pockets, in Tokyo. And what happened was I gave him $80,000 plus about another 80,000 from my other investors, and he lost all of it. So about 160,000 he did lose, right? That was enough. That was the stick that broke the camel's back. That was the twig that broke the camel's back, because now we lost that money, and suddenly we had all these expenses, and I did not know what to do. So what did I do? Instead of submitting my pride, or my in-laws would not help me and stuff like that, my parents could not help me, I went and borrowed from the mafia. I borrowed from them. It was a loan shark sort of thing. I borrowed from them in desperation. I signed the contracts. They gave me the cash. It took care of the problems initially, but it was like jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. And so now you can just see how it's, if you're watching this, you're probably getting this sinking feeling in your stomach. Well, take that and multiply it by 1,000 times, right? I was vomiting literally every night. I'd fall asleep out of stress around about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, after chugging a big can of beer to just take the edge off. And then after that, by 4 a.m., my brain would have just enough sleep. I'd wake up and I'd be stressing. And I defaulted. I did not pay the mafia. So they came by the house. They started smashing the windshield on our car and putting all these notes everywhere. And we lived in a very high-level condominium where you had ambassadors and people like that living there. Our neighbors were starting to see the problems that we were having. And, they'd be banging on the door at 4 a.m. in the morning. And the security of the condominium would not come and do anything. And, they would not get involved. The police would not really do anything. If the police came, these guys would just walk off. It was just a messed up situation. It was a lot of stress. Not a very healthy situation to be in when you have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old baby and you've got a wife. It's the fastest way to get a divorce, right? So this is at the end of 2013, and I called up my mentor, this guy that was the chairman. I'll be honest, I was actually going to beg him for money, but I didn't. I respected him so much, and I knew that he was more valuable to me than money. And so what I did was I held back, and I kept telling him my story, and he knew that I was going to ask him for money, but I didn't. And he said, Desmond, I'm not going to give you a fish. I'm going to teach you how to fish. And he said, Desmond, you're pretty good with this Facebook and all this stuff online. I want to show you something that you need to take a look at. And that's when he basically introduced me to a lady named Tracy Walker. He said, look, there's a lot of these online marketers right now, but I've been looking into a lot of them. There's a guy named Lawrence Tam. There's a guy named David Wood. There's a lady named Tracy Walker that we found out. And Tracy Walker, I really think that she's the real deal. Take a look at it. I'm going to go check this thing out. And that's when he introduced me to blogging and online marketing. Now, you must understand, Darren, and all the viewers watching this, when I first saw that, I was so desperate. I was stealing diapers from the supermarket. I could not get $25 into a credit card because all my credit cards were maxed out or canceled already. I had one credit card left in Canada that I'd kept since I was in university or whatever, and it was maxed out, it was overdrawn, and I had to get a friend to put some money in there. He put money in, and we found out I was still overdrawn, so he had to throw in another $400 just to bring me to par, just to bring me to zero, and then an additional 40-something odd dollars just to get started online. Do you know the amount of trust? I was taking such a risk doing this, right? But I did because I trusted my mentor. And when I did, though, I started to realize how powerful this online marketing stuff was. Now, that didn't mean my problems went away. I still owed the mafia. And I'll tell that story another day. I'll just leave that for you guys as an open loop. You guys can contact Darren or myself to find out more. Fast forward, I spent the last 15 months debunking all the BS that's out there on the internet. I treated this like a serious business. I started to align myself with leaders, people that I saw that were very successful. There are a lot of gurus out there. There's a lot of programs. Buy this for $47.97 or whatever. This program's worth $4.99 or whatever. And if you get it now, you're gonna get it for $129. There's a lot of that stuff out there, and I really relate or empathize with anyone who's researching anything online right now. But we're the living proof. Darren is the living proof. I'm living proof. 15 months into this, guys. I'm not a guru or anything. You just heard my background. And I'm able to work from home here in beautiful British Columbia with my 2 kids. In fact, right after this call, I'm done with Darren. I'll probably take my kids up to the park, right? I crank out a bit of work on the internet, on the computer. I would say it's done sporadically throughout the day because I get to choose my hours. But I'll probably say if I'm on a campaign, I really want to work hard, I can do 10-hour days. But those are far and rare, right? I don't really do those ones anymore. My average is probably about 3 hours a day, of work compared to me working in corporate America. And I came back to Canada and I worked at Sony of Canada. So that's my story, right? That's how I got started, Darren. I'm sorry I took a little bit too much time there, but I
No
hope
problem.
I give you guys the full, overview.
Here's what I want to really, sort of just summarize on here, guys. That if you're watching this for the very first time, I can tell you that every successful entrepreneur that I know, okay, myself included, right, has gone through some ridiculous amount of trials and tribulations. Okay, you've got to understand that what looks like an overnight success in a lot of cases, there is a massive backstory behind that people don't see. And there is a massive amount of personal development that goes into that journey of self-discovery, really. Because what it really comes down to is this evolution of stepping into your power and stepping into your leader. And if it wasn't for all of those situations, guys, just so you know, that wouldn't happen. If a person's not ready to go for it, like playing in poker, going all in on their dream, they never make it, right? So a lot of people say, well, I'm not having the type of success that you're having. They've never gone all in on their dream. They're not emotionally connected to their dream. They haven't burnt all the bridges behind them and totally go for it, right? That's the missing component. So what Desmond is talking about here, you're getting an idea, guys, okay? You're getting an idea of the backstory that people go through to get to the point where they are right now, where they're talking from a different pedestal of a voice, right? It's all about being able to find your voice. People talk about finding your voice online. Well, that comes from a lot of trials and tribulations. Am I right with that, Desmond?
Sorry, I had myself on mute. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's such perfect points that you said, that burning your bridges or burning your ships, right? There's the famous story of I think it was the Greeks, or anyway, where the generals or the king, puts his soldiers on the beaches and then they burn the ships. There is no way back. There is no, and getting all in. And I met Darren, by the way, guys, just to let you know, I did not really know Darren. I did not know that he was a local here in British Columbia, in Vancouver. I was really, really excited when I found out about that, because I had seen him. As you get more, if you get more familiar with the online industry, you find out who are the leaders. And though we're all set, we're around the world, we're completely, you can meet people from England and other places like that. But it's really, really exciting when you find out that a leader that you respect, that you see on the leaderboards or is doing some programs, and you see some really good stuff out there, and you find out that he's actually in your backyard. He's your neighbor. And so that's actually what happened. Was in the last 1 year, while I was back in Vancouver after I'd left from Japan, and I raised my kids here as a single parent, because my wife is still stuck in Japan. She's still running. She's still trying to salvage our our brick and mortar businesses, and she's actually doing quite well right now. So really glad that that's happening. But I had to come back home here, and I took care of my kids, and I was a hermit. I was actually really embarrassed about my situation. So I laid low. I worked at Sony of Canada. I did this corporate job. And I started to really investigate this online marketing. And I didn't really want to come out of my shell until I felt I had attained some sort of success. But in 2015, I started to network with some of the local leaders here. And Darren happened to be one of them. I saw him, and we never met. I just reached out to him. I said, hey, Darren, I see that you're in Burnaby. I see that you're local. I've seen you around. I've seen your scores and your numbers. And I think you're doing really well. I'd love to network and mastermind with you. And it turns out we actually attended an event just recently down in Nashville. And, we were trying to get together before that, but it didn't work out. Our schedules were busy and stuff like that. And I'm sitting at this event. I just arrived a couple of days early. I'm sitting at a cafeteria, and Darren walks right by, right? So talk about how the universe puts things together in such a serendipitous way. There are no coincidences. If you're believing in a lot more on the metaphysics side or the esoteric side, I totally love that, and I think that such magical things like that happen. And ever since then, we've been clicking, right? So I'm deeply honored and privileged to be on this call with Darren and to mastermind with all of you.
Fantastic. Desmond, maybe you can share with us, because when I talk about online marketing and I talk about some of these various different strategies, it's almost like an osmosis. It's almost like putting on suntan lotion, rubbing it back and forth, and it kind of just absorbs into your being, right? To be able to just lead people, to have proven strategies that that will work, that if they just duplicate the same strategies that you're doing, that they will start to generate results in a very, very short period of time, like 30 to 90 days.
Yeah.
If you could share with the viewers here, maybe 3 of your biggest takeaways that have been the biggest breakthroughs for you on that path for yourself, what would those be?
Good question. 3 takeaways. Number 1, be genuine. Don't be disingenuous. I see so many desperate beginner entrepreneurs, and I mean, this is a conundrum. This is the the chicken or the egg, or it's the double-edged sword. A lot of people get started and they always think that they have to have results first. They're like, well, if I want to attract people, I need to have results first, but I have no results because I'm brand new and I don't know what I'm doing, and I need to watch this program, I need to do this. When my true story was that when I first got started, I did not know anything about blogging. I did not know anything about, I had Facebook and I knew Skype and things like that. I was on LinkedIn, but I really did not understand this magic. I felt overwhelmed, like many people do as well. And you just have to, I had this knowing that I didn't expect to be a guru right away. It's a learning process, but it doesn't mean that you can't make money, you can't get results in your first 30, 90 days. In fact, I had to make results my first 30 days because I needed to take, my whole success has been on cash flow, right? And that was to start off at $25, in the program that we started with. And I had to roll that over. I had to take that and get 100% investment and reinvest it back so I could pay my second month and just keep, be self-sustainable. And so I had to be creative and I had to find value in what I was doing. Now, so I didn't understand the products. I didn't understand the systems. I didn't understand the training I had. What I did understand was the value of the people I was networking with. Here's an actual true story. When I got started, I told, I put out a mass email to all my network, and I guess I posted something on my Facebook as well. And I basically said to people, because they knew I was trying to socialize and network with some very successful people, so at least I had that background, going in my favor. And I said, hey guys, how much would you pay to be around a multimillionaire, a successful self-made millionaire? How much would you spend a month to be around a millionaire, say about an hour every month, to get mentored by him or tutored by him? And people came back with all these different numbers, $500, $200, $80, all kinds of different things. And I said, what if I could tell you that you could be around a self-made millionaire like that, get mentored by him for a fraction of that cost? And I didn't tell them the exact price at that time. And they all said, yeah. I said, okay, great. Well, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put together this webinar. Okay, I'm going to invite him. He's in Bangkok. He's in Thailand. And he's going to jump on this webinar with us. And basically, that's what I did. And everyone signed up with me for I think I've had about like 20 people invited. And of the 20, I think about 7 of them signed up, right? Of the 7 that signed up, I was able to, I was rewarded for that. Obviously, the company I was tied up with rewarded me and gave me some commissions. I was paid out within 2 weeks. I took that commissions and immediately paid off my next month. And that's the start of my story. I just rolled it over. So what have I taken away from that would be, one, you don't have to be a guru. You just have to be able to see value and honestly trust that you're going to learn. You learn by doing, right? You learn by doing. I just played around. I made lots of mistakes, tons of mistakes. I had to watch tons of videos. I had to network and find great individuals. And I make a whole different video on this one. Tracy also does as well, but how to find a mentor. Don't expect anyone to give you anything. You have to be out there. You got to be hungry. You got to go find it out yourself and learn by yourself. I hope, does that answer your question, Darren? I mean, does that add to it,
Absolutely. So, just to sort of, summarize those, if you could summarize the 3 things. So obviously, taking massive action, I mean, there's obviously would be one.
Yep.
But you don't have to know everything
yep.
in order to have success, right? You just have to take consistent action and move forward and learning something, implementing it, and then sharing your results. What would be the other thing?
The other thing about what we do, like I said, I was trying to be very genuine. I honestly wanted to help people. You hear people say this all the time. Like it wasn't, and I have had lots of discussions about this. It's not about the money and everything. You need money though, because you can't work from home and be all stressing out if you don't have money. So you need to get rewarded for this. Like I said, for me, it was cash flow. Know your numbers. Treat this like a business. This is serious. I see so many people also come into this and they treat it like a hobby. They have so many other priorities. For the first year, I worked really hard. I mean, I obsessed over this. I wanted to find out everything about this. I wanted to find out how it works. So I would say I obsessed about this. I didn't, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. I didn't jump from deal to deal. I stayed focused with one thing. I chose one thing and I decided to be a master of it, because you heard from my story before, I was a jack of all trades. So I was tired of doing that. I just wanted to master one thing. And that's what I decided to do, is to master being really good at online marketing. And what is this online marketing? Well, ultimately what it is helping other people. The online marketing is really helping other people to succeed in online. And that's how you really succeed in online marketing as well. Because most of the time, what is online marketing? We're offering training, we're offering solutions to other people. So you are helping other people. I'm helping single moms. I'm helping stay-at-home parents. I'm helping, I've got people who are holistic practitioners. I'm helping all these people. So I'm actually fulfilling my dream right now of helping other people, and I get paid for it. And that's done through the online arena.
Fantastic. Guys, this is really important what Desmond's talking about right now. And if you get this can totally shift your business forever, okay? So if you learn something, let's say that today is your very, very first day, okay? Brand new. You've never done anything before your whole life. Today's day one, okay? And you watched a video and it gave you some value. It's like, wow, I didn't know that before. Now you know something. There's all these other people that haven't necessarily learned that skill. They don't have that knowledge that you just got. Day one, guys, the very first day that you're starting. So you now have some value that you didn't have yesterday that you now have today. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't do, and then they wonder why they're not successful. They don't take that value and share it with other people so that they become the leader, right? Because this is about helping other people. So if I've learned something that solves a problem and I do an ad campaign talking about the problem, who's having this problem, because I've got the solution, that's leadership, guys, just so you know, just so you really understand the model, right? So the very first day that you start, that you learn something that you didn't know before, there's a lot of other people that don't know that thing that you just learned. And if you apply that same formula every single day, learn something new, apply it, and then share that with other people, that's how you start to get looked at as a leader, right? Am I right about that, Desmond?
Yeah, I was going to add to that. It's the learn, do, teach. And there are a lot of people that come. Now I'm at the stage right now where I'm starting to get a lot of mentees and students coming to me. And they normally would start and they say, Desmond, I'm not a specialist of anything and I really don't know anything. And I said, no, you're very unique. You've got some very unique experiences. Do you read books? All you need to do is, like Darren said, solve people's problems. I was a concierge in the hotels, and here's my analogy on it was, you want to position yourself as an authority. Don't be disingenuous. Like I said, don't pretend to be something that you're not. Just be humble from where you are. I know moms that know so many hacks and things, home remedies. I know just average people, engineers that are really good in different areas. Start by just giving value to people, because that's what we do. The really successful online marketers, they start with that feeling. They start with like, I'm just going to give something without expecting anything back. And by doing that, then everyone puts them up on a pedestal as if they're this big leader. And then that's when they are able to, people start coming to them, following them. And that's how they start to get their success. That's been my formula for what I've done. I did not try to expect to get anything back from the beginning. I tried to help others first, and then they put me up on a pedestal.
Exactly. So, guys, if you use these strategies, if you use these formulas, right? Where I always tell people, this is what I tell people. I say, Aaron, what's the real secret? Okay, well, what's the real secret to getting into momentum, getting into liftoff? And here's what it is. Give away your best value up front and give it away for free, unconditionally, right? Give it away to the whole world, right? Because here's what's going to happen. That value is going to start to go viral, and it's going to be shared with other people without you, okay? So if people get value from what you have, they start to share it, right? I mean, I've had people from other companies, right, that will send me a message and say, hey, Darren, I just want to let you know that I send my whole team to your training about how to recruit new reps in 6 to 45 minutes. That's not me broadcasting it out. Guys, it's really important that you get that. That's giving away your best value that you have, right? For free, give it away, right? And it will go viral on its own. So Desmond, I want to just say, I appreciate you, man. I'm really looking forward to connecting more here locally, here in Vancouver, doing some live events here with you, because I think we could really provide some value to the marketplace. And, you're awesome, man. I really just want you to know that from my heart. It was great to hang out with you in Nashville, and look forward to some great things ahead.
For sure. Darren, really quickly, at the start of this call, you did talk about that. And some of my mentors have said this, because in the online industry, it's a lot of click to click. But there's a magical thing that happens when you get to the blink to blink, when you have that physical connection, when you actually meet people in person. That's why it's so crucial. If you're working, if right now, if you're someone at home and you're thinking you just want to work from, don't isolate yourself. Don't make yourself an island. Take some time, make sure you plan it out within your year, periodically, every 3 months perhaps, or every month. Make sure to get out into your local community, into a live event, right, where you meet with other like-minded individuals, to network with them, brainstorm with them. If you're a big, if you've read Napoleon Hill, you understand about masterminding and stuff like that. That there's a real big magic that happens there when you do that. Things happen all the time. Build rapport with people. Do that, and that's what I really plan to do with Darren. Is actually host some events, where we can really just give value. Like, invite a bunch of aspiring entrepreneurs that get together with us, and we'll share ideas. We'll tweak things up. We'll give them advice on what they can do, as well as we're always constantly trying to find what's the next best practice that we can do right now. And if once you get that information, we'll share that with you guys, because perhaps some doors can be opened for Darren or myself that may not be open for you, simply because of our credibility. And we can take that information and then share it with all of you. So if you're watching this and you're local, reach out to Darren, reach out to myself, and keep your eyes open for the next event that we might be doing together.
Absolutely. And one thing that I want to say here, guys, in closing, is that it's important for you to know when you're in a company, okay, that leaders come from an abundance mindset, okay? So you don't have to be on the same team in order to provide value to the market, okay? So here's a perfect example. Desmond and I are not on the same team, okay? So he's got his team in the company and I've got my team in the company. So we're not even in the same group, okay? That doesn't matter. That's so critically important that you get this, that you as a leader need to be reaching out to other leaders to cross-pollinate value, okay, to provide more value to the marketplace. Okay, so it's not about whether or not you're on the same team, it's whether or not you're tapped into the same mindset, okay? The same mindset, because that's where synergy starts to happen. So Desmond, thanks a lot for joining us on this call. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got Darren Little here with the MLM Superheroes, live from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And I look forward to meeting you in person one day. And I look forward to seeing you at the top. Bye for now.